The old cliche in baseball is that momentum is only good as the next day's starting pitcher. I think that cliche lacked a little bit of context. Let's give it some for the Guardians, who took no momentum from their Tuesday night extra inning win over the Yankees in to their 8-1 loss to the Yankees on Wednesday.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
No momentum for the Guardians on Wednesday. However, you can build some momentum on Game Time. Today's episode of Locked On Guardians is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDON. It'll be for $20 off your first pitch. Terms apply. This is Locked On Guardians. Today we're going to get into the Guardians lacking consistency, lacking the ability to carry momentum. We're going to talk about how one game doesn't fix the Guardians' offense. We'll get into some stats. Guardians' big missed chance in that loss on Wednesday. We'll talk about some lessons learned, both for the Guardians' offense and for the Guardians' pitching. We're also going to dig a lot into some minor league news. We're going to talk today a lot about the Guardians' post-draft prospect, or I should say system rankings. We'll also get into some Best Tools Award given out by the minor league managers through Baseball America. A lot of good stuff to go into there. One Guardians minor league hitter cleaned up with a couple of awards. It's probably not who you think. We'll get into that. Before we do that, this is Locked On Guardians. I am your host, Justin Lattis, solo for at least one more day this week, as Jeff enjoys the last bit of summer vacation with his family. And we are happy to have you here, whether you're an everydayer, whether you're new, whether you're not consistently listening like the Guardians offense. We're still happy to have you here. We are free wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. I am Justin Latta. You have probably, maybe you haven't read me places like that. Maybe you have no idea who I am. But for those who maybe do, maybe don't, I have written at places like Guardians Baseball Insider, where I was the editor-in-chief for a couple of years. The Morning Journal, the News Herald, where I spent most of my time, where I'm at right now. I'm also at Prospects Live, and I'm here with you guys today. I appreciate you all tuning in. Momentum. It just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Everyone says momentum is only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. Look, Joey Cantillo, not great on Wednesday. He was not great. We'll talk about why. Some of it's his fault, some of it's not. And really, at the end of the day, Joey Cantillo could have gone out and done whatever the heck he wanted to. You don't beat anybody scoring one run. You don't beat the Yankees scoring one run. You don't win in Yankee Stadium scoring one run. So no matter what Joey Cantillo did, there was zero chance anybody could have pitched well enough to the Yankees, even as a top-heavy team they are, which we're going to get into a lot of today about their top heaviness. You can throw a lot of that on Joey Cantillo, I guess. He didn't pitch great, but it didn't matter. The offense didn't show up, and it's a huge missed chance for the Guardians offense for not showing up, because we all talked about, everybody in the post game on Tuesday talked about, that hit. I said the same thing too. I said the same thing on Tuesday's podcast. I said, I didn't necessarily guarantee it was going to happen, but you hope that those extra inning hits by Lane Thomas, by David Fry, by whoever, finally driving in those runs in the extra innings to win against the Yankees, took some of the weight off their shoulders and starting to let things loose a little bit. And you hope that some of the guys would just start coming through, and you hope that feeling of winning that extra inning game when you should have lost because you had so many missed opportunities that the Yankees threw your way and you didn't take them and you won. Because in theory, winning that game, you should feel really good, and losing that game, you should feel really bad, because that's a tough loss for whoever lost that game. But it didn't matter, because the Yankees came out. They had two guys. I shouldn't say the Yankees came out. Nestor Cortez came out. Aaron Judge came out. And Juan Soto came out. And they beat the Guardians over the head. Three guys, basically, beat the Guardians over the head on Wednesday night. And for the Guardians, it should have been a great opportunity, because, again, you had that good feeling, that positive vibes from Tuesday night. And this is, again, proof that momentum doesn't exist, proof that you cannot just get by on vibes all the time. They were facing a lefty. You have Lane Thomas, who's supposed to be a lefty killer. You have David Fry, who should still hit lefties even in spite of his injuries. John Kenzie-Noel, he ended up hitting a home run off a lefty, but it was in garbage time. Tyler Freeman has hit lefties better this year. Jose Ramirez has been a lefty killer this year. None of them did anything against Nestor Cortes. And not that Nestor Cortes isn't a bad pitcher, not that he's not a good pitcher either. He's good. He's fine. He's pretty good. But this is also a guy that the Yankees wanted to trade. They were trying to go and get Jack Flaherty or other starters on the market deadline, and they were talking about flipping Cortes if they went out and traded for a starter. In the second half, Cortes has a 481 FIP. Right-handers this year are slugging 470 off of him for the season. He's allowed 19 home runs to right-handers this year in 113 innings. Guardians did absolutely nothing against Nestor Cortes in this game. And again, it's not to say he's a terrible pitcher. He is a quality major league pitcher, but he's not having a good August. He's not having a good second half. The Yankees were trying to trade him. Right-handers have crushed him this year. The Guardians have a lineup that's designed to hit left-handers very well, and they came through with nothing. And it's one game, so I'm not going to sit here. Again, this is the same thing as yesterday, right? I said if you go back and listen to Tuesday's podcast, we were all excited about the Guardians' extra inning win. They played good. In the extra innings, I should say, they came through. The bullpen saved them. They finally got some big hits. Everybody was feeling good. It was all vibey, whatever. And I said, this is, it's one game, and one game doesn't break an offensive streak that's been tough for the Guardians. So you can't sit there and say, oh, this is, you could easily sit there and say, like, you hope this is the one game that gets them going. You hope it's a spark. You hope it takes some pressure off, whatever. You can say all those things. But you have to go out there and actually do it and make those things hold up. And that's all we said on Tuesday's podcast. That it's a good feeling for one game. You got to carry. You got to build off it. You got to build two good days in a row. The Guardians just haven't done that. One good game cannot fix an offense. It just can't. It was a good win. It was. I said it was the biggest win of the year, and it was. It was the biggest individual win of the year. The problem is, it should have led to a better game on Wednesday. They should have been better. They had. I don't want to say they had the Yankees on the ropes because, again, everything is just based on how you play the next day. And the Yankees, big three of Judge, Cortez. I'm calling Cortez part of big three. He's part of big three on Wednesday. Judge, Soto, and Cortez beat the Guardians. You got beat by three guys. Simple as that. Earlier in the year, we talked about how good the Guardians were at scoring 4 runs or more. I don't have the stat exactly, but I tweeted about it a bunch of times. And one of our everydayers, Dave Wendell, was mentioning how many times they were scoring 4 runs or more. And I kept bringing it up, and it was great. The month of April, they were doing a great job of scoring 4 runs or more because it was something in 2023 they did not do a good job of. And we're talking about 4 is that magic number, right? Even with the starting rotation that's been very suspect all year. We'll get into Joey Cantillo in the second segment and the issues of that decision and all the other things that surrounded the pitching plan on Wednesday. The Guardians were great in April and May, scoring 4 runs or more. The whole first half, really. In the month of August, they have scored 4 runs or more in 9 of their 19 games. That's not enough. That's half, but that's not enough. That's the magic number. They're 6-3 in those 9 games. That's a good record. When you score 4 runs, you win. They have scored 4 runs or more 14 times in the second half out of 31. So again, they're scoring 4 runs or more half the time, and they're winning all those games. But it's the games they're not scoring. They're 11-3 in the second half when they score 4 runs or more. That's the magic number. And again, this is the Yankees bullpen. They use a ton of their bullpen on Tuesday. And you had Nestor Cortez. Your lineup was set up great for that. And it doesn't matter what Joey Cantillo did. He could have done anything. He wasn't going to throw a no-hitter. He wasn't going to throw a shutout. You are not beating the Yankees in Yankee Stadium 1-0. Not behind Joey Cantillo. Maybe a bullpen game would have been better. I don't know. It was unrealistic. And again, it's not. I don't think it's Joey Cantillo's fault. There should have been a better game plan for that. And I'll get into that in the second segment too. We'll talk a little more about that. But the Guardians offense, again, they're only showing up in half the games. Stephen Juan, month of August, below league average hitter. David Fry, below league average hitter. Will Brennan and Brian Rocchio are 2 of your better hitters in the second half. Josh Naylor, 120 WRC plus in August. John Kensington, 137. Again, keep saying the guy's got to be in the lineup every day. There's issues there to look at and be concerned about. But given where the Guardians are and what he's been doing, it doesn't necessarily matter right now. Jose Ramirez is at 140 WRC plus in August, but here's the problem. The top three of your lineup went 0 for 10. You can't win any games going on. I mean, there were games early in the year where the Guardians were having production for the bottom of the lineup, but you're not going to beat the Yankees in the Yankee Stadium with your best three supposedly your best three hitters going 0 for 10. It's just not going to happen. They moved David Fry into the 4-hole. They moved Josh Naylor down because it was against a lefty. Didn't matter. David Fry had a hit. Josh Naylor 0 for 3. So they went 1 for 17, that top five. They went 1 for 17. That is not going to win any ball games. None. Doesn't matter how good your pitcher is. You're not, especially not the starting rotation. They're not doing it. They're just not. And there was so much to talk about on Tuesday. I didn't even get into the whole moving Jose Ramirez into the 2-hole thing. And they moved Lane Thomas into the 2-hole. He had the big hit Tuesday night. He struck out 3 times, twice against, or 3 times. All 3 times were against lefties because all the Guardians saw in that game was against lefties. 7 innings of Nestor Cortez, 2 of Tim Meza, who has an 8.04 ERA. And this is just one game. And just as I said Tuesday, I don't want to put too much importance on one game of the win. I don't want to put too much importance on Wednesday a loss. They're individual games. That's why we said there's no momentum. Clearly, the Guardians didn't have any. They didn't feel it. And the Yankees certainly didn't care that they lost that game and, quote unquote, should have been devastated. Even I thought that. Even I said, boy, that's a tough loss to hang on and come the next day on. The Yankees didn't care. The Guardians couldn't make it stand up. All they did was face lefties. You got a lefty masher lineup. Freeman, Noel, Fry, Jose, Lane Thomas. What did you get? You got Noel with a garbage time home run. Jimenez a garbage time hit. David Fry with 1 hit. Means absolutely nothing if you can't beat the left-handers. And Lane Thomas right now, we were really excited that the first couple of games against Detroit, and then what was the first home game? No, it wasn't the Padres. Who was after the Detroit series? It was Philadelphia. No, just Detroit. After they were on the road, the Baltimore series. I'm sorry, Baltimore. He was good early in that series, and they have got nothing from them since. It's tough, but you want to know what? They have to keep playing these guys. These are the guys that you're going to be relying on to do it, and you can't run away from them. I know nobody wants to hear that. You're not benching Juan. You're not benching Jose. You're not benching Fry. Fry's a different story. You're not benching Naylor. And Lane Thomas is here. I don't know. You can't sit him. You can't. You just can't sit the guy. Maybe, again, they've been sitting against righties a little bit more, which they're going to have to do, but he was in the lineup against lefty, didn't produce. That's on him. That is on Lane Thomas. It's not on the Guardians. I know people are going to say they should have done more at the trading deadline, and I want to stress, again, one game, but, Lane Thomas has a track record of hitting lefties. He didn't do it. At some point, the player has to come through on what they're known to do, and that's what Lane Thomas is known to do. Didn't happen. Getting traded at the deadline is hard. I'm going to tell you that right now. A lot of players struggle. Randy Arozarena, everyone to trade for Randy Arozarena, he's not hitting that well in Seattle. The Mariners are free falling more than the Guardians have. They're out of first place. Getting traded for that first time is hard. You almost want to trade for a guy the second time he's traded the deadline. It's hard. All right, we're going to get into the Guardians. Keep talking about how these are lessons learned. They're being battle tested. We're going to get into what that really means for them. We're going to talk about the pitching plan for the series and not letting 2 guys beat you. We're also going to talk in the third segment about the Guardian system, farm system ranks. They shot way up after the second half. We're going to talk about one hitter that really had a lot of cleaning up in terms of best tools among managers in his league. Probably not who you think. We'll get into that all coming up on the rest of today's Locked On Guardians. Guys, if you're like me, there are not a lot of hours in the day. I work a full-time job. I host this podcast. I'm trying to live life. I'm married. Life gets busy. Fitting in a workout is very hard. You can tell. But you want to get efficient workouts personalized for you, use Tonal. Maybe you've thought about hiring a personal trainer, or maybe you decided that you wanted to, but it's too expensive. Tonal. Do it. It's like a personal trainer for you at home. Optimizes every workout for you, and everything you buy these days is smart, right? Smart car, smartphone, smart gym system at home, like a personal trainer, gym equipment. Powered by AI, Tonal learns every rep so it can learn and deliver workouts that are personalized for you. It uses adaptive digital way to advance your training techniques, personalized program, and workout suggestions based on your individual goals. So if whether you're a professional athlete or you're just like me trying to get one workout in somewhere, anywhere you can, Tonal is trusted by thousands who have become their strongest. Right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off your Tonal purchase with a promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com. And use our code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your first purchase. That's Tonal.com. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off. Check out all the action around the MLB, around MLB, not the MLB, on Locked On MLB with our pal Sully. Every day he's breaking down the biggest stories, the biggest division races. There sure is a lot of them. The Twins won, so it's back to 2.5 games, 3.5 if you count the tiebreaker. We'll talk more about tiebreakers, but get all that information over at Locked On MLB with our pal Sully, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, your sport every day over there. The Guardians keep talking about they're battle tested. They're, every game is something you can learn from. That's 100% true. It is something you can learn from. And there is some battle testing going on. The second half has really tested them, right? The bullpen has passed all their tests. The rotation, outside of Tanner Bybee, nobody's really getting better. The offense, no one has really improved in the second half. Juan's gone the opposite direction. Naylor has had ups and downs this year. David Fry, again, injuries, playing against right-handers, whatever. Andres Gimenez is having a pretty good August, I will say. Things are looking better for him. But the Guardians keep talking about how they're battle tested or they're getting battle tested, learning lessons. And that's great. You can take lessons and all this stuff from every game. But that only matters when you actually apply it and are able to succeed because of it. And right now, it's very hard to sit here and say that they're actually capitalizing on those lessons. I'm not sure what the right word is, but they're actually doing something about being battle tested or learning these lessons. Right now in the second half, they're 15-16. That's fine. That's not terrible. They were playing 6-11 ball in the first half. Was this a 600 winning percentage team coming into the season? Probably not. With the rotation, that was with Shane Bieber. Without Shane Bieber, the offense has struggled. They're 8-11 in August. They had almost a 20-run negative differential in July, and they were still over 500 by a game. They just fell under a positive run differential with the loss on Wednesday for August, and they're 8-11. So things have trended in a tough direction. And every time, I will say, I've said this a lot on the show this year, and the reason I believed in this team quite a bit after the first half is that, they hadn't lost more than 3 in a row. And every time they did suffer issues, like all the weird things they've had against the White Sox this year, I've said they've come back from those games and they've, kicked out of it. So to give you a wrestling term, they're kicking out of it every time. You think they're finished and they're not finished. They're not letting the stunner bring them down. They lost that 7 in a row and they came back with the 5-game winning streak. And I thought, okay, that's the team we saw a lot of the first half. If they lost a series, they lost 3 in a row, whatever, they came back and they ripped off 3, 4, 5 wins. And then, they got swept by the Brewers. And then they beat the Yankees in a game that was wild, crazy. They outlasted them. And they didn't carry that over into the next day. So it's really hard to find, consistency is the hardest thing to do in Major League Baseball. That's why the teams that are the most consistent over 162 are the teams that get to the playoffs and have the best chance to win. It's why it's the hardest thing to do on an individual player basis, on a team basis. That's why it is the hardest thing to do. And, we're just not seeing that from this team in the second half. And at some point, I think we move into September, we're going to probably review some of the goals from this year. I thought this team coming into the year could compete. I didn't know if I didn't believe in more than 85 wins. I said 85 wins was my max for this team. That takes 13 more wins to beat that. And if they don't do that, they're in trouble. I think they will. So I don't have to worry about that. But we might have to revisit some goals because we talked about this was still kind of a learning year, but you're also trying to win and threading the needle thing, which I'm getting so sick of that term, talking about it all the time. We might have to revisit some of that stuff. But right now, in a lot of what I'm talking about here with the consistency is it's hard to do with young players. They still have a lot of young players, but the idea of playing any young players throughout the year is to get them to learn and find out who's part of the future. And they're winning while they're doing that, or they were winning, and they are, they're still, 19 games above 500 or whatever it is at this point. It was 11. Yeah, now it's 10. 20. Sorry, it's 20 games above 500. Let me not give them less credit than they deserve for what they've done this year, but you're getting to a point in the season where you've built up all this and you've got to find a way to learn from all the things you've gone through and improve throughout the year. And it's hard to improve throughout the year because teams get a scouting report on you and guys are worn down. But everybody's facing the same challenge in baseball. No one has on a higher plane than anybody else. Everybody has adjustments to make, and everybody is dealing with nagging injuries here and there. So it's a level playing field for mostly everybody when it comes to those things. The other thing I'm going to talk about Joey Cantillo before we move on to prospect stuff in the second half of the final half of the show. Got to consider a different pitching plan. And I know it goes against everything athletes train for, but the number one thing athletes want to do is they want to win. They want to succeed, right? Every athlete wants to win at the end of the day. And that means swallowing your pride, or that means trying to take a different approach. The Guardians' approach to pitching and then they won Tuesday, so they outlasted them, whatever. But the Guardians' approach to the series, clearly they weren't too worried about about pitching around or whatever they were doing to handle Judge and Soto. It was more about matchups and just trying to find the best way to pitch them. I think in game 3 of the series, I know Gavin Williams is a competitor. He throws hard. You got to pitch around these guys. You cannot get beat by a lineup of 2 players. And if you're watching on YouTube, I've got some stats up here for you, and I'll tell it to you for the audio listener. So the Yankees have scored 13 runs in 2 games. That's great. 12 of those RBIs are from Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. They've got 1 RBI from someone not named Judge and Soto. It is easier said than done to sit here and say, well, just don't have guys on base for them. Limit them to solo homers. That's easier said than done. And if the bases are empty, maybe you pitch around them. Maybe you walk them. Maybe you try to do what teams do to Jose and John Kenzie Noel, where they don't throw strikes and you try to force the guys to get themselves out. And if you make a mistake, well, that stinks. But a solo home run is certainly better than look. If Soto and Judge hit 2 solo home runs apiece on Wednesday, you lose that game 4-1, and it's a little more frustrating because it's closer. But those are the only 2 guys that beat you. But the problem is you had guys on base, you didn't pitch around them, they crushed you. Judge and Soto have been on base 10 times in this series. The rest of their lineup, the other 7 guys in their lineup, have been on base 16 times. So 2 guys have been on base twice as much as the rest of the team, or half as much, I should say, half as much, a little more than half. And you either got to pick your poison here. You got to say, look, we're going to try to limit, you try to limit them to solo home runs if they beat you that way, or you got to pitch around them and let somebody else beat you. Quite frankly, I say let somebody else beat you. Maybe you save some of that gamesmanship for the playoffs. I don't know. I think the Guardians might want to win on Wednesday to clinch the series win this series and go for the tiebreaker. We'll talk a little about the tiebreaker in the third segment before I get into prospects. Also, quickly before we get into that, I know people are going to say, oh, silver linings, who cares? I'm just going to point out Pedro Avila continues to be an important member of this team because when you're getting beat the way the Guardians were getting beat on Wednesday, you're trying to find a way to minimize the damage and get to the next game to win. This is going to be important for the playoffs. It's important right now. If we're talking about every game is a playoff game, it's important right now. Morgan and Avila both did good on more Avila than Morgan, but because he gave the home run to Judge, but they both did good. They came in, they threw 4 shutout innings. The rest of the bullpen didn't have to go out there. They're rested for Wednesday. Those guys are ready behind Gavin Williams. You hope they have a better pitching plan for Judge and Soto. You hope the offense does anything against Gerrit Cole. Again, easier said than done. But you set yourself up to be in position to play in game 3, to be in it. And that's all. I think that's one of the things you have to manage for when you're getting beat in a game like that. And you have to hope the guys come through like Avila and Morgan. So give them credit. They did what they needed to set up the team for Wednesday or Thursday for the finale to try to have success. And that's for their roles. That's the best you can ask. And considering that not a lot of guys on this team on Wednesday came through in their roles, those two guys did. Now it's up to the rest of the team to make that effort pay off. We'll see. All right, we'll get into a little bit more about the rubber match, some tiebreaker scenarios, and we're going to get into prospect stuff in the final segment as well. Pipeline and Baseball America, farm system rankings, and best tools as voted on by minor league managers through Baseball America, all coming up. Get supplies from a site that's made for skilled trades. Supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts and 400 top brands to get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining Supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. Join thousands of trade pros that are already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from just a few clicks from supplyhouse.com. Guys, you know how much I already love the Game Time app. And right now they've got a new feature that's really awesome. It's the Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Filters out all the fluff, all the time wasters. So you only get incredible deals on great seats. You don't waste time searching through thousands of available tickets. Hey, if you're in Arizona right now for any reason, or maybe you're going to Arizona on Labor Day weekend, they have a 50% off offer to Dodgers at Diamondbacks tickets on Labor Day, exclusive only to Game Time. They have a limited supply right now. So if you're headed out there, you live out there, take advantage of that Labor Day special, get tickets while they last. I'm going to use the Game Time app right now to buy some Ohio State tickets coming up in the fall. But one of the things I'm doing with Game Time that I love is waiting till the last minute for the prices to come down, keeping an eye on the deals. They've got super deals. They've got amazing deals that tell you you're getting the best price for this section, compared to whatever else the market might look like. That is one of the best features I love about Game Time. And of course, the other thing I love too is the all-in pricing feature. Every time I use Game Time, I turn on the all-in pricing feature. I put the tickets in there, and it shows me exactly what I'm going to be paying at checkout. No surprise fees. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets or whatever tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKDOWNMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Guardians back in action at 1 o'clock matinee on Thursday. So if you're listening to this beforehand, check out the game on your SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians to find the broadcast of that game. It is the rubber match of the series. And if the Guardians win it, the Yankees and Guardians series will be tied for the season. And that matters again because they could still be chasing down for best record. For all the frustration, the Guardians continue to be in the conversation for best record. Right now, they are a game back of the Yankees. If they win that game, the season series is tied. I had it yesterday that they got swept in April and they didn't. But the Guardians need to win that game to tie the season series. Now, the tiebreaker, if the Guardians and Yankees win 3 games apiece this season, is intra-division play. So let's say, for whatever reason, the Guardians and Yankees are tied for the second or the first best record at the end of the season. And they split the season series. Let's say Gavin Williams pitches great, and the offense shows up against Gerrit Cole, or fingers crossed. They will go by intra-division record. So if the Guardians have a better record against the AL Central than the Yankees do against the AL East, the Guardians will have the edge, or vice versa. Right now, the Yankees are 22-23 against the AL East. The Guardians are 21-17. Still a lot of time to go there. Gerrit Cole on Thursday in the finale, no easy customer. He's not having a great year, but again, it's only 10 starts and it's hard to gauge because of the injuries right now. So things are a little bit in small sample size territory. So it's hard to tell, but historically for Gerrit Cole, if you're going to hit him, it's got to be in the first inning. He's got a 4.08 FIP in the first inning this year. It's generally the highest FIP, the best, batting stats against him. That's generally when you want to beat him. Right-handers have given him trouble this year. It's, again, 10 starts, so it's a small sample size. Hard to really take anything seriously, but right-handers have a 370 WOBA against him. Lefties, 316. So, I don't know. Historically, it doesn't really matter. I don't know if Stephen Vogt's going to put his lineup together based on what Gerrit Cole's doing this year versus his whole career, I would go with his whole career, not this year. But I don't know. Lane Thomas against Gerrit Cole doesn't sound great based off of the fact that Gerrit Cole's bad against right-handers this year when Lane Thomas couldn't hit a left-hander on Wednesday night. So who knows? He has been throwing more cutters this year than he ever has before. I'm not sure why. Maybe they're easing him back in with sliders the way they did with Gavin Williams. The cutter has been getting crushed. But guess what? Guardians did nothing against Nestor Cortez's cutter on Wednesday, so it doesn't really matter. Momentum doesn't matter. It's all about how you perform that day. It doesn't really matter. Let's wrap up today's show talking about system ranks and best tools. So, Pipeline, MLB, our friends Jim Callis and Jonathan Mayo do a great job over there. A tough job, I will say. Makes this kind of hard. The Guardians this season on Baseball America and MLB Pipeline coming into the 2024 season were both 19th. They both had the Guardians farm system 19th. So that's pretty close to the bottom 10 in the system coming this year. After the draft, they are up to 4. And you would think, oh, it's got to be because of the draft. Well, yeah. Getting a guy who is a top 20 prospect definitely helps in Travis Bazzana. He is 13th on the top 100 for MLB Pipeline. He's 19th for Baseball America. That certainly helps. They've had a couple guys move up, though. And it's the back half guys right now, really. It's been Jason Churio, who is a top 100 prospect for both sites. He's 70 at Pipeline and 78 at Baseball America. Ralphie Velasquez is 77 at Pipeline. Baseball America likes Ralphie even more, 65. And then Angel Henao is 95 over Pipeline. Baseball America likes him even more at 70. I would tend to agree. I don't know. Top 100, I can't really go off top 100 because I don't know everybody else's prospects. I know most or some, but top 100 for me is pretty hard. But the fact they're both top 100 is good. Chase Slaughter is still pretty high on both of those sites at 32 at Pipeline and 49 at Baseball America. And then Manzardo is 52nd overall at Pipeline and 67 at Baseball America. Pipeline likes a little bit more. The one thing I'll say about Pipeline and their system rankings and their top 100 rankings or individual team rankings even is they put a lot of stock into the draft. And it's an approach a lot of people take. It's not just them. But it's a lot of ranking guys who haven't failed yet, right? You're putting to me, it feels like they don't bake in the risk as much as they should. Like the Guardians took a lot of top 100 high school pitchers in this draft, and that gives them a lot of potential, sky high potential with those picks, right? But that also comes with a lot of risk. And I think you have to weigh that risk in accordingly when you're ranking it. And the one thing I know is the Pipeline's rankings overall, whether it's top 100 or team rankings or system rankings as a whole, is they put a lot of draft guys high. And I think it's because they haven't failed yet. They'll drop guys that have failed, but maybe have lower risk or whatever. You know, they value those new guys that get in. And maybe some of that is because they are trying to generate interest for those guys and they're trying to draw hype, whatever. I don't know. But again, it's not an easy job. 2 or 3 of them cover, the entire country of prospects. It's a hard job. Baseball America has a few more guys at their disposal. They also have some, contract writers too from different regions as well. So that helps them out with a couple of things. But still, going from 19 to 4 is pretty good. You're in the bottom half. Now you're in the top 5. That's pretty fun. Hopefully the Guardians can do something about that. Bazzana in the top 100. If you notice, if you're looking at these rankings, by the way, top 100s, Guardians. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 top 100 hitters. Goose egg for pitchers. I don't know the last time I saw it, but I think that kind of speaks to the fact that the Guardians have graduated Bybee, Williams, and Allen I know is struggling. But they've graduated, 2 pitchers that were top 100 guys, and they don't have anybody to fill in from there. A lot of the other draft picks haven't emerged. I know as much as we like Peterson and Messick on this show, and Denholm had a great night Wednesday in Akron. Those aren't top 100 guys. They're just not. They're not going to be top 100 guys. So they have had a hard time producing pitchers recently. That explains the gap this year in help from AAA. Joey Cantillo has top 100 stuff, and we saw what happened on Wednesday. He just doesn't throw enough strikes, and yeah, that's really what it is for him. They don't have any top 100 pitchers. Hopefully that'll change. As far as Baseball America best tools are concerned, they had another hitter, Jason Churio, cleaned up on best tools. So Baseball America's best tools, how this works is managers from each level, each league vote on this, and they give them criteria, best hitting, best strike zone awareness, best defense, best power, best glove, best arm, best individual pitch, best control, all this stuff. They give these managers a sheet and they fill it out, and they can't vote for their own players. So they go around, they give the managers these sheets, they fill it out, and that's how Baseball America determines this. So Jason Churio in the Carolina League comes away with best hitting, best ability to hit in the Carolina League, best zone awareness, best strike zone discipline for Jason Churio. That's great. And then the best defensive outfielder, he got that one as well. A lot of people think Jason Churio is going to wind up in left field. I don't think so. I think he's going to wind up in center. I think he can stick there. He's got the speed. And then he also was voted most exciting player in the Carolina League. Again, voted on by the managers down there and voted on by other managers who you can't vote for your own player. So Jason Churio cleaning up in the Baseball America best tools. Ryan Webb, talking about one of those pitchers who needs to be added to the 40-man roster at the end of the year, which we're going to get into later in this week. He was voted best changeup in the Eastern League. He has since been promoted to AAA, obviously, in the International League, but only a couple of starts. But he was voted best changeup in AA, so that's exciting to see for Ryan Webb, a guy Jeff and I both were high on coming into the year. He led the Arizona Fall League in strikeouts last year, coming off Tommy John. He's a little older, but we thought he was a guy who could help this rotation. Probably not going to happen this year, obviously, but next year he definitely is in the mix. And then Jose Devers for the Midwest League had the best infield arm. He's had a really good arm. He's a small guy, has a lot of power in that small body in terms of rotational ability, infield arm, and even some surprising exit velocities. And then I also threw this on, I'll just point out for posterity, Alex Clemmy was voted on as the best slider in the Carolina League by Carolina League managers, obviously with Lynchburg and now Fredericksburg as part of the Lane Thomas trade. Maybe not where I want to wrap things up on Lane Thomas and that trade, but throw it in there. So Jason Churio, loved by Midwest League managers. Hopefully, I'm sorry, not Midwest, Carolina League. Hoping to see him in the Midwest League by the end of the year because the Captains are in the playoffs. We'll talk a little bit more about the Captains playoffs. We'll talk about a lockdown meetup again, working on some details with the Captains guys. At least I'm hoping to hear from them this week on that. Hopefully Jason Churio will be a part of that because we want to see if the Guardians, how much they value the playoffs as far as minor leagues are concerned. We can get into that later in this week as well. But tomorrow's show, we'll get into whether or not the Guardians will not let Judge and Soto beat them. Big three tomorrow. A big three today is Judge, Soto, and Gerrit Cole. Yikes. We'll get into that. Guardians coming home to host the Rangers. That's a series the Guardians need to absolutely clean up in. We'll talk about September call-ups, Rule 5 thoughts as well. We're going to talk about a prospect who I think is changing position. Not changing positions, but it's not more about versatility. It's more about where his best defensive home is. We'll get into that about prospects as well. All of that coming up later in the week on Locked On Guardians. Thank you guys all for listening. I know Wednesday was a tough game. Hopefully Thursday will be a lot better. Appreciate you guys all tuning in, though. Please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify, wherever. Love the comments on YouTube. Thank you all for being appreciative of the solo show. It's not easy. Don't know how Jeff did it all these years without me, but thank you guys all for tuning in. Go, go, Guardians, go. Do not let Judge and Soto beat you. And then just find some runs.